Welcome to the Deadlifts and Pizza podcast, where we discuss no BS fitness and nutrition.
We're your hosts. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jamie.
Let's get into it.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Happy anniversary.
1 year of podcasting.
Yay.
That's it. It's just a podcasting anniversary. We have
a
big episode planned for our anniversary, right?
We do.
Not really. So I thought we could talk about, kind of reflect on our own podcast a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe things that we've learned, less we've learned, surprises, whatever. I have some ways that I can tie that into like fitness and nutrition journey as well. And then kind of lead into what a year can do for you in terms of like fitness and nutrition.
I like it.
Because more people need to have a year-long mindset. People underestimate what can be done in a year and overestimate what can be done in a month. Right?
Agree. Agree a lot. But before we do that, I first just have to say how much I love you.
I knew you were going to do that.
Jamie is the best, and I love her so much. She's one of my favorite people.
Oh, you're the sweetest.
And there's no one that I would rather podcast with than you. You make it so much fun.
Ditto.
Because you have such a good sense of humor, and you don't get offended when I talk. Like, I can just say my opinions and you let me talk, and you're not like, you know, it's so easy to talk to you because I don't have to worry about the words I'm saying as much as I do with other people. And that's really nice and freeing. And I love you so much.
Where you are like the most loving and empathetic people I've ever met. And that's one of the things I love the most about you. I feel like for the strength of the friendship we have and the amount of time that we've known each other is unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love that. So even just saying like 3 or 4 years, I'm like, what? That's
crazy.
It's
crazy.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
So there's our Lovefest.
Love.
All
right. So what motivated us to start this podcast? Because I remember we talked about it a lot before we actually took the plunge.
I remember we were going to name it duct tape and plywood.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
Deadlifts, duct tape and plywood or something. Yeah. Because when I with Juliana, it was just really funny because every time something would go wrong, like our solution would either be duct tape or plywood or sometimes both.
Parenting.
So she would like throw her poop around her room and we would duct tape her like onesie to her so she couldn't unzip it. She kept climbing on her dresser, so my husband screwed plywood to the top of it so she couldn't climb all the way up. But she also opened the drawers and she would throw her clothes everywhere. So what he did was screw 2x4s to the plywood in the dresser so that she couldn't open the drawers. But that meant every time I went to go get her clothes, I had to bring a screwdriver, like a drill with me. I mean, and I had to undrill the 2x4s.
Why did you even keep her clothes in the dresser at that point? Why do you even have the dresser in the room at that point?
That's when eventually I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And we put the dresser into the living room, and that's where it's been until just like 2 days ago. I'm like, we're putting that back in her room. I don't want it out here anymore.
Yeah, so and I remember you trying to explain what he did. Like, you were like, he screwed plywood onto the dresser. I was like, to make it taller? Like, you made the dresser taller? And didn't it, like, clarify if I'm wrong, because I still in my mind have a picture of essentially building a box on the top of the dresser. Yeah. So if she climbs up, she could go in. Didn't she do that?
She did. She got in there before.
She got in it. So now she's trapped.
She's trapped
in a box.
On top when she would do it, when she would do it before and climb up there, she would get stuck, and then she would freak out. And like we found her, like she fell off a couple times because she would go up there and then like fall asleep, and then fall up like. It was dangerous. So we were
the parenting stories that Laura has, and I will say, raising an autistic, nonverbal little child. So that is always very relevant. It's not just like a typically developing 4 or 5 year old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a
It's
different
hilarious.
character.
Yeah.
It's gotten a
But
little
I
easier.
think we would have those conversations, but then we would also be having these very strongly opinionated conversations about fitness and nutrition. And then we would have these strongly opinionated conversations about politics. And I think we were just like, we should record all of this. This
Yeah.
should be public knowledge. And obviously we've kept it to just fitness, but still we were just like, this is interesting. I want to re-listen to what I'm saying right now and what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then one day I think we tossed it around a couple of times, but I texted you one day and I was like, let's do a podcast. And you were like, okay, next week. I was like, yep. And that was it. And we just did it. And that was it.
Yeah.
Sure, is there anything like, was there anything that you expected to be really challenging about podcasting? Like looking back, was there anything in particular that you were nervous about? And then how do you feel like that is now? Like, do you feel like you've grown, we've grown, whatever?
I thought talking would be hard, which is funny because it's a podcast.
That's what you do.
That's like the main point of it. But no, like, I get, nervous when I talk, especially if I have to come up with things to talk about and whatever. But it actually doesn't feel that way because it's more of a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't feel like, I don't think it's as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I thought there would be a lot of dead space, but you can edit that out, I guess. We don't usually do that though, because there isn't a lot of dead space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought those things would be hard. And we have,
and how do you feel about it?
Better at it.
Yeah. Oh, you said it feels easy because it's like conversation. Do you think it would be different if it was like, so it is really just, it's literally on camera. It's just you and me looking at each other like a video chat. And it's just being recorded. So it's easy. Do you think it would feel different if it was like there was all these other boxes of all the people listening? It's like a video chat with everybody. Do you think it would feel weird?
If I could see them seeing me?
Yeah, like everybody's here.
Can they talk?
Can they talk? Maybe in the chat, kind of like, with we're doing a client call on this same platform and they're there.
Okay.
But they're on the chat.
It would. I think it would feel a little different because it's live then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I still don't think it would be as hard as I thought, like with both of us. If it's just me, it's so much harder than with both of us.
Yeah. I think that literally probably the thing that stopped me from doing it sooner, because for me, I'm not worried about talking. That doesn't make me nervous or anything. And I know that I can go off the fly, but it was more so like feeling like unprepared. Like I need to prepare topics to talk about. And what if we don't have topics to talk about? And because neither one of us are very good preparers. Like very rarely are we actually prepared to podcast. But yet we're always able to pull something. But I think we both have enough experience with fitness and nutrition that like you can present a topic and we can talk about it. But it's more so like what topic. And sometimes, and this comes through in just training and coaching in general, is that it's like, oh, I've already talked about, progressive overload before. So I can't talk about that again. So what, you run out of topics almost, but it's actually not true because you can talk about the same topic over and over again in different ways from different avenues and different studies or different like whatever. And it never really gets old. So I think doing the podcast kind of has solidified that because we've talked about a lot of the same topics just over and over and over again, but from different angles. Maybe it was an overrated, underrated, or just talking about it directly, or a study that studied it and just like coming at it from different angles. And then some of the games that we/you have come up with, like overrated, underrated, or like pick a number, or like some of these things I didn't necessarily expect, but those ended up being some of my favorites. Like those are my favorite things to do. Like I almost want to not have topics. I'm like, can we do overrated, underrated, or what are the other ones we've done?
Kiss, Marry, Kill.
Marry, Kill. Yeah. Like I love doing those because you can kind of delve into these things you wouldn't necessarily think about delving into a little more. Those are my favorites to do.
Would you rather? Yeah.
Yeah. Would you rather? I like the random pick a number. Like I'm just going to come up with words and pick a number and then we'll talk about it. Like salmon. Can we talk about this right now? I like those. Those are some of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I do like that.
And I feel like in terms of like lessons that I've learned from doing podcasting consistently for a year, because I think I said this last week, is that you're the one that's kept us on. There have been multiple times where the timing didn't work out for one of us for one reason or another. And I've been like, we can just skip it this week. And you were like, no. And usually you're very like agreeable to things like, okay, that's fine. Like, you know, whatever, even if it's not what I want to do. But you were like, I do not want to be inconsistent. Like
Yeah.
I will come out here another day that you're available and record, or we can do 2 episodes in one and then post the next, which is essentially what we're doing now. We're doubling up every week so that I can get through my move and not be inconsistent. But we have been every single week
Yes.
consistent. And I think that that's really cool. But I feel like too, it's like those crossovers with like parallels, I guess, with like fitness and nutrition. It's like this idea of showing up even when you don't necessarily feel like it or it doesn't necessarily work, like making sure that you're consistent with it. And does it really matter if we miss a week? Probably not. But it's more so that mindset of the individual. It's not everybody else listening, oh my gosh, you're going to notice and hate us or whatever. But it's more so the mindset of the individual. Like if you miss once, what standard are you setting for yourself? And it's because we didn't even miss once that we have this very high standard of like deliverability, right?
Yeah.
And showing up. And I think that that's really cool.
I think it's similar to working out too, is that there are days where, especially because we do this like I do it at night a lot of times, where I don't really feel like it, but once I get here, I do feel it's like I'm glad I did it, and like it was actually fun. The same thing with like a workout. Like very rarely do I do a workout and regret it afterwards. You know, like I should.
Yep, definitely. And like tying back to how we both had these reasons that we felt like it's almost like imposter syndrome, right? It's like you and I think that we're funny and interesting and insightful. But then it's like we joke about like, oh, we should record these conversations because we're so elite. But then once you actually go to do it, you're like, wait a second, well, hold up, because I don't actually really believe that. And that's where like imposter syndrome comes in. It's like, should we even be talking to you? You probably had those doubts as well. Like, who wants to listen to us? But it was like, F it, we're going to do it because for us, we're already having these conversations. We're just going to have them at a specific time. Like there's been times where you and I have texted about something and we'd be like, oh, no, we're not going to talk about that. Let's save it for the podcast so that it can be more authentic. Like we're still having these conversations. So it's not really taking that much time out of what we're regularly doing because we want to be able to talk about these things anyway. We just do it at a structured time.
I get to talk to you for an hour every week.
Yeah, it's like awesome. Like I love doing it.
Yeah.
But you kind of get over that kind of like imposter syndrome because you're getting through things based on repetition, or you're getting better based on repetition. So we've gotten better at podcasters and at those things just because we just did it. We just jumped in, even though we didn't think we were necessarily ready or the best podcasters ever. We just started doing it. And now I still wouldn't necessarily say we're the best ever, but we've gotten better through repetition. And some of those things we were nervous about before, we've like overcome. Yeah. And that's so true for training in particular, like just starting and just keep doing it and set that standard for yourself. And a year later, you've really gotten better through repetition.
And not worrying too far in the future of, am I going to get to this goal or this or that? And instead just start and good things will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where goals, I don't know, this is kind of a tangent, I think, but I just had this idea in my mind of like setting, like, what if we had started this podcast with the goal of like, this is funny because this ties into fitness and nutrition. What if we just started this podcast with the goal of like, all right, in 3 months, we need to have like 500,000 followers. And like, that's our goal. And like, sometimes goals can be useful, but in that case, a goal is not good because it just leads to frustration. So we didn't do it with this massive goal. We just did it to get better and to have fun and to dip our feet in this area that for us professionally, we knew was going to benefit us, but without this intense like focus. And I think that's what sometimes people jump in like, all right, I'm going to do this diet I'm going to do, and I'm going to lose 20 pounds in like 3 months. And then they just get frustrated when they don't meet that.
Imagine if you went to if you just tackled fitness in that same way of, I'm doing this because I'm going to find the things that I enjoy doing and trying to get better at this thing instead of I want to lose 20 pounds or whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you hear that ding, by the way?
I do.
Dang. How can I not have that happen? Maybe I'll close Facebook. Because I have it on Do Not Disturb.
Remember to mark this so you can.
I know, I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
15 dings is what I wrote. What were you saying and what was I saying?
I was saying if people tackled fitness that same way where you tackle it like trying to get better at it and and not worry about your end goal.
And this is where I think I talked about this recently too. I've started asking people, instead of saying, what's your goal or what are you working towards, which I still ask because especially in more shallow conversations, like if I'm just chatting with somebody on Facebook or whatever, but once it goes a little bit deeper, I love the question of paint me a picture. Where do you want to be 6 to 12 months from now? What does that look? What does 6 to 12 months look like for you in terms of blank? Like, where do you imagine you want to be? And they paint me pictures that involve them actively engaged in fitness and nutrition, maybe in a different way that they are now, but they usually go into areas of their life, not just like, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to be this. It comes out more than that. I want to be somebody who chooses this, or I want to be somebody who feels this way. And I think that's kind of how maybe subconsciously I, and probably you, jumped into this. It wasn't, this is my SMART goal that I want to be able to achieve in, 3.72 months. It was more so, if I painted a picture of a year from now, I want to be somebody who podcasts. I want that to be part of my repertoire. I want to be somebody who comfortably talks about topics in these different ways. And then we have a library of things to push people back to when they say, oh, I have a question about creatine. I have a question about this. Like, oh, we've recorded this great podcast episode on that and it lives forever. And here we can point you to it. Yeah. I just kind of had that picture painted in my mind. And I feel like we're basically there. And I think that's pretty cool.
I do that same thing when I get a new client. There's a goal sheet, like a goal form that they fill out. And that's one of the questions. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, how paint a picture of. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. All right. So I guess we can drift a little bit into, like, if you actually commit to a year of consistency, so not necessarily perfection. So if we're just making that crossover into fitness and nutrition, and what if people didn't chase that absolute perfection? What if people didn't just constantly chase motivation or these very specific goals that might be unrealistic? What if you just showed up consistently? What would you be able to achieve in a year? What would you be able to look back? Because it's funny too, because you threw me off when you said, like, last week or the week before or whatever, that it was like the 52nd episode, that it had been a year. Like, I still feel like this is relatively new. And I think even halfway through, we're like, oh, it's been 6 months. I was like, what? We recorded our first podcast yesterday. How is it that it's been 6 months already? Like, it kind of feels like that. And I think time just goes like that, right? And I always say, like, at the beginning of challenges or boot camps or things like that, I'm like, think about 6 weeks ago, think about 8 weeks ago. Like, that was yesterday, So time always feels bigger when you're looking at it from the front, but it feels minuscule when you're looking at it from the back, right? When you look back and you go, oh, that was only that long ago, that feels so quick. So if you just know that, I think we're all 30, 40, 50, 60, year old adults. We know by now the maturity that time flies in that way. So what if we just went into it knowing that? What kind of progress could people see if they just jumped in with both feet and started?
Yeah. Sorry, I had like an analogy. It's kind of like the stock market. When you put money.
Oh, sidebar. Laura's first love is me. Her second love is the stock market. And her third love is her husband and children. I'm just kidding.
So when you are like a buy and hold investor, you buy the S&P 500 fund or whatever, you just put that money in there and you put it in there week after week after week, and you don't want to look at it. You don't want to worry about the results of what it's, because it will deter you from, it might discourage you if the market is down or whatever. Instead, you're just supposed to set it and forget it. Similar to that, if you just focused on being consistent with your workouts, you're going to get a lot better progress than if you're worrying about your results all the time.
Yep. That's so true. I said before that I feel like people kind of underestimate what's possible in a year, but they overestimate what they can do in a month, which I think is funny.
Yeah, it is.
And I feel like when I can help somebody reframe to a year-long mindset instead of a 3-month, 6-month mindset, it's like a gift. Because at first it feels frustrating because somebody who's coming with a short-term mindset of like, oh, this is this goal, I just really want to achieve it, I'm going to do it right now, and here's all the things I'm going to do to get it. Me telling them, hold up, it's actually going to be like a year, can feel like so frustrating and like they're at the bottom of a mountain. They already knew they were at the bottom, but they thought maybe it was just a hill. And I'm showing them that it's actually a mountain and that they're actually really at the bottom instead of 5 steps up like they thought they were. It's frustrating. But when they can get past that hurdle, it's actually like a gift and it's very freeing because the reality is a lot of us too, we know because we've done this before. So we find ourselves doing it again, but yet you can point to history and be like, oh yeah, well actually I know logically you're right. And so when you can release that almost like expectation and then that subconscious knowledge that you're going to end up failing at it anyway because your expectation is ridiculous, it's so freeing because, and then when you can release those hard goals that you have set for yourself that aren't really realistic, like you said, you start doing it for fun and you do it for enjoyment and you do it to learn and you do it to grow. And it makes it a lot easier to stick with it. And then the big gift is that, and this is the biggest thing that it's hard for people to see, is that regardless of any change that you might make, let's say that you don't really get that much thinner or that much stronger or that much, I don't know, any of these things that you had set out as a goal. Let's just assume none of those actually happen that much. The huge benefit is that if you go in with this mindset, you'll still be doing it in a year versus if you do it in a 3-month mindset. Let's say you do like lose a bunch of weight and feel better. A year from now, you're going to be right back where you were, if not in a worse off position. So regardless of any of those results, and by the way, you will get stronger, you will lose fat, you will do all of those things, but you will also still be on that pathway to achieving those goals and then some if you go in with this year-long mindset instead of backwards, which is where most people find themselves. Do you agree with that?
And you will also get all of these unexpected positive things that happen that you didn't even realize. So you'll get a boost of confidence. Like once you can lift really heavy, it just boosts your confidence after you lift a heavy deadlift. You just feel like you can conquer the world after you do that. After you touch your ceiling from jumping, you just you get a lot of confidence, and then you think you're elite all of a sudden.
Yeah.
A lot of people's pain goes away. Like a lot of people don't realize that they don't realize that they don't feel well until they feel better. And once they feel better, they're like, wow, I can't believe I used to feel that way all the time. So a lot of times your pain goes away, your mental health gets better. You can handle stress a lot better because you're doing this challenging thing every day. And once you start to, it's something that people, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say. You go. I lost it. It's gone.
Yeah, well, you're talking about stress, doing something. So you're doing something difficult every day, and your body in every way improves its ability to handle that and overcome it. And you're doing something hard every single day.
That's what it is. So like,
most
obviously,
days.
Well, you're lifting heavy things, so just your everyday life is going to get easier, right? Just because you're stronger now, and you're going to be able to go upstairs without running out of breath and all of that stuff. So there's those kinds of things. But you will also, when you do challenging things, you learn to do challenging things, and you're able to conquer other challenging things, if that makes sense. That's where I was trying to go with it.
Yeah, and for some reason, my head made this link. Because I'm because of the topic, I'm thinking back to like podcasting for a year, because I think any new challenge can be relatable to like fitness and nutrition, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like we're too far away from the beginning point, which is how I want to wrap this up. So we can go through this and I'll go to that, like what we would tell ourselves starting over. We're too far away almost from starting over that sometimes you like forget what it's really like. But this is a good example because we started something new. But if we had set out with this very rigid goal, even if it wasn't 3 months, let's say it was 6 months, or let's say it was in a year, we want to have 500,000 followers, but like it was very specific in that way, almost vanity, right? Because a lot of times people go fitness and nutrition because they're chasing some sort of vanity marker. And sometimes it's not vanity. Sometimes you actually need weight loss for health. I get that. But even when you need it for health, it's usually tied into vanity as well. So there's a vanity aspect to fitness and nutrition. So if we compare that to podcasting, the vanity would be, we want to have all these followers, we want to have all this new attention, right? Which of course we want. But if we put that in the forefront of our minds and we use that as our only metric of success, we would not have been able to go back and reflect on all of those other areas that we've improved on and how much fun we've had. We would just be frustrated that we're not there, right? And we wouldn't be able to really reflect on and see and appreciate all those things. And then so maybe we would stop podcasting and we would never be able to appreciate or really revel in like all that we learned because we didn't actually learn anything. Same thing with like fitness and nutrition. If you're constantly chasing these things, all these other positive things are happening. But if you can't actually see it, then eventually you're going to give up because you're enjoying nothing and you're learning nothing, even though all of these things are happening. And so you give up and then you lose all of it. And that sucks. Mm-hmm. So don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Right.
Another
pause once 26.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you've kind of touched on this too, but another positive about doing it for a year, like something else that will happen is it will be easier for you to be consistent after that. Like you were saying, like after 3 months, if you only do something for 3 months and then you stop, it's not the same as doing it for like once you do it for a year and you're consistent for a year, you're more likely to be consistent for a very long time, you know?
And this is, we've talked about this a lot before, but this is why I love strength training. And you can do this with cardio too, but strength training is more naturally set up to have like progressive overload, essentially, like to have various goals. You're doing so many different exercises with so many different weights. And you go into it knowing the goal is to do more weight over time or more reps over time. You can do that with cardio. You can try to get longer running times or faster paces of things, but people don't always approach it that way. Actually, most of the time people approach it as like a calorie burn thing. So, but the idea of constantly going into it knowing you're trying to get better at something, I love that so much because again, if I had gone into strength training, and I see people do this all the time on fitness groups and in my own client circles, is like, all right, here I am. I'm doing strength training. It's all the buzz for women right now. I hear about how like it's better for metabolism and fat loss and all this stuff. So I'm going to do it. And then in 4 months, they're frustrated because they're like, I got better results when I was on the elliptical every day for an hour. What's going on? Why am I not losing fat? And it's like, okay, stop and slow down because there's so much to discuss there. But it's also like, you need to have fun doing it. That's part of the greatness about it is like you go in and you're like, how do I lift this thing off the ground? What am I supposed to do? And then you learn how to do that. And then you do it for the first time and that's empowering. And then the next time you go in, you're like, that was actually kind of easy. I think I can pour more weight on it. And before you know it, 6 months from now, you're lifting like 100-pound deadlift and you're like, what did I just do? And it's so empowering. It's such a confidence booster, like you said earlier. And it makes you fall in love with the process so that you can enjoy the results, even if they come slower, because you know that they will stick longer.
Yeah, it's nice to go into your workout every week and you're able to add more weight to the bar because you're consistently getting stronger. That's a lot more rewarding than seeing the scale go up and down or, looking at your pictures that don't really change after one workout, but you can actually literally get stronger after one workout.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can make progress after only one workout. You're just looking for the wrong one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So to wrap this up, I thought we could tie it up with like, if we could go back and tell our beginner day one selves, not in podcasting, but in fitness and nutrition, like advice, like what we wish we knew, what would we give? Because I think both of us, for me, it was literally almost a decade of bullshit before I got to the point where I really understood like what progress should look like. For you, it wasn't as long. But if you're starting brand new, what advice would you give yourself so that you'd actually look and appreciate your progress in 1 year?
I think it was like 10 years, honestly.
Okay.
Not like once I got there, Like once I got to weightlifting and I found that, I did the right things. So before that, though,
Yeah.
I didn't start doing that until after Juliana was born. So I was like 30 something.
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was. How old was I when she was born? 30? I don't know how old I was.
Don't ask me,
But
man. Math is not my forte.
so, yeah, it was like
Even
10 years.
simple
So
math.
anyway. So anyway, I would have told myself eat more food. Eat more protein. You don't have to be perfect with your diet. You don't have to eat perfect. Focus on whole foods, but that doesn't mean that you can't have chocolate sometimes or foods that you enjoy sometimes. And carbs aren't bad. Not that I thought carbs were bad, but like grains aren't bad. You know, all of the bad foods I thought were bad aren't bad. And I would have told myself to focus on performance, like getting stronger in my workouts and not how many calories I was burning. Don't try to do
100%.
the workouts that are going to burn the most calories. Focus on those types of things, and I would have gotten progress so much faster instead of totally like always worrying about how many calories I was burning, always worrying about how much food I'm eating, always worrying about that stuff. Just focus on enjoying the process and in the journey, and I would have been so much better off.
Yeah. I remember asking, so I had this period. I always talk about my own fitness and nutrition journey in like phases. So this is like phase 2. And phase
Mm-hmm.
2 was like when I really discovered strength training. Phase 1 was like pre-strength training, but it was all gross diet cardio stuff. And then it was like I discovered strength training, and that was phase 2. But I was still doing it wrong. Because I remember I had a friend who was a fitness buff and a newly turned personal trainer. She's somebody I went to high school with. And I was like a budding photographer at the time. So she asked me to take her first like fitness photo shoot. And I remember asking her, because I was in the gym, I was working out very regularly. I was, thought myself a badass and, whatever. It's always like reflection. Like I was, but like I reflect now and I'm like embarrassed. But I remember asking her, how do I get my shoulders to grow? I cannot figure out how to I want like defined shoulders and I feel like I'm doing everything right. And I honestly don't even really remember her answer, but I couldn't fully intake her answer because my mind was not in the right place to do it properly, because the reality was there was 2 things I was doing wrong, and I was doing it in everything. One was not eating enough. So like
Yeah.
if I could go back and tell myself, it seems so simple and so dumb now, but you can't live in a fat loss phase. And I lived either severely undereating or F it mode, YOLO.
Yeah.
There wasn't any in between. And once I was done YOLO, it was like, crap, I need to get back on track. And it would be back to like 12 to 1400 calories,
I
like
think that's
super
most
low.
people,
It
or women
is.
at
And
least.
I couldn't, and my excuse would always be, well, and I hear this from people too. Well, but I just came off a period of like eating like crap all of the time. So like it wouldn't make sense to eat more food because I just did eat more food. And now I need to diet.
But the more food doesn't have to be more garbage food. It just
Right.
like if you ate better quality food, you're going to be
Right.
good.
I know that now, but in my mind, it was all about calories. And I was like, well,
Yeah,
I just
I
did.
agree.
I
I was the
still
same
have
way.
clients where I'm
Yeah.
like, they're like, this fat loss phase isn't working. And I'm like, you need to trust me. We need to spend time in maintenance. But that doesn't make sense because the last 3 months, I haven't been tracking at all. And I know I have been eating closer to maintenance. I know, but it's like that pie. Your pie wasn't accurate. It was probably really low protein, a lot of other crap.
Yeah.
We need to like regulate at maintenance, thermic effect, fiber, all those things. You're going to notice a difference. Your body's going to thank you, all this stuff. But people jump between those 2 things, and it's hard for them to understand that it doesn't have to be that way. And I 100% never actually gave myself periods of time eating enough. My muscles weren't going to grow without fuel. They weren't. And my periods of time where I was overeating was like a week here or there. It wasn't like months and months of complete.
Yeah.
So I
Me
was like
too.
constantly living. And then I was never actually, this is another thing where I feel like there's so many people stuck in phase 2. that I want, like my passion is helping people cross from phase 2 to phase 3, like building that bridge for them. Because lots of people, women, are already strength training and they're already lifting and they're already eating healthy and they're already doing all the things, but they've never spent time actually eating enough to allow their muscles to grow beyond those newbie gains. And they're not actually really progressively overloading because they're not actually really pushing themselves to what they think. I'd be doing lateral raises and all the things, and I'd finish 10 and be like, "Whoo, yeah, that was hard," but never actually pushing that to see what that was, or adjusting the reps. Like, all right, let's bring the reps down, let's bring them down, and then let's push beyond that, and let's, like periodize this more and see what I can accomplish. I was never actually spending time doing that, and I think so many women are still stuck in that phase and wondering, like, oh, why can't I see progress? That's why.
I had periods where I was lifting, where I'd go to the gym and things. But I would always do the machines, and I tried to progressive overload, but it was really hard because you'd hit a plateau on the machines that you don't hit when you're deadlifting or squatting or that kind of stuff. So I would just not be able to progress any further. And that's part of my, why I believe that free weights, the strength from that is so much, it's so much easier to make progress when you add free weights in compared to if you're just doing machines, because I feel like eventually you will hit a plateau. But I used to do more like, when I would be like home working out, it would be more like circuit training. It would be going from this exercise to this exercise. So I'm not building a lot of strength doing that, and it was really hard. I would try to up the weights, but I would get tired. Wasn't building a lot of strength doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I those would be two things. Like, if I could even just summarize into two things that I would tell myself on day one, it would be spend 6 months minimum at maintenance. Because once you do 6 months, you'll realize you love it there, and you'll probably do it longer because maintenance is magic.
Maintenance is the best.
Oh, it's the absolute best. And then you see progress and you feel amazing, and it's so cool. And then the emotional progress you realize too, from when if you're coming from a history of like, 80s and 90s, like fitness and nutrition trauma, and you actually get over that fear and start eating enough, but yet you see your body changing for the better, and oh my God, it was all a lie. I didn't have to live this way. That's really fun and freeing. But number 2 would be follow a freaking program, like an actual real one, not some BS you find on bodybuilding.com that's just like thrown together 3 sets of this and 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 12. Like, not just that basic stuff, like a real periodized program. Follow it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like the 2 biggest things, because I spent so long just like, I know what I'm doing. I'm just putting together stuff. I know what I'm doing. Why can't I see progress?
Mm-hmm. Once I started lifting, the happiness and the freeing feeling I felt once I learned I could eat more food. I can't tell you how happy I was once I upped my food, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong eating this much food. I am not being bad or whatever by eating this much food. And and I'm getting more progress than I ever would have by eating less food. And I felt so I don't know, I felt so
liberated.
Free. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's such a good feeling. And then strength training, like when I started doing that correctly, I was like, I fell in love with that right away. Like, that didn't take forever. I was in love with this whole thing. That's why I decided to do this for a living. Because I was like, oh my God, why don't more people do this? Do they know about this?
Best thing ever, new career.
Other people need to know. They need to know about this.
I don't think people know.
I don't think they know, because I didn't.
I discovered this and nobody knows, but for real. And the people that do know are like, yeah, I know.
I lost
but the people that don't know are like, no, that's not real.
I lost you in the middle of you making a joke.
I think you're back.
You're back.
Oh, dang. Can you hear me now?
It was you who was gone. Not me.
No, you were gone. Because you know what's funny?
You think it was me?
When I'm editing, yeah. Who else would I be talking to?
I wasn't the one who disappeared. You disappeared.
No, you disappeared, bro. You were gone.
You did.
No, you were gone, though. Did it say that it was me? Because my thing said it was me, again. So I do believe it was me.
Yes, you just froze again. I can tell when it's me because it'll say on the top, like, internet connection, blah, blah, blah.
It's definitely me. But I'm just saying you also, though, you left.
Oh, okay.
But it was my fault that you left. Editing these when this happens is so funny. I've wanted to send you messages because it'll be like, you'll be talking and I'm there too because our tracks record individually. So it doesn't look like I'm gone. It's just you talking and me like. And then when you're done talking, you do the same. And we're both just like. And then all of a sudden one of us goes, oh, are you back? And they're like, yeah. But the whole time we were both there. It's really funny.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes I talk to you. I'll say things when you're gone. Usually that's more when you leave, though. Like you'll walk downstairs. No. It'll be like I'll say things if you don't come back soon, blah 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 blah. I don't know.
I think I've heard that before. That's pretty funny. But what I was saying is that the people that know, the people that do already know, are like, yeah, duh, like I know. But the people that don't know are like no. Like no.
Yeah, if you're like, it's not that great. Like if you're not doing it right, you're not going to think it's that great. But once you do it correctly, you're like, wow, this is the best thing ever. This is the best thing since sliced bread, you know?
OMG, salad in a bag. All right. Awesome. That was good. Okay. See? Look at us doing anniversary episodes.
Yeah.
With good stuff.
I feel like this was not my best podcasting work for a year anniversary. I lost my train of thought a bunch of times. It's like...
nobody's going to know because I'm editing that all out.
Okay.
It's going to be so good.
Okay. I look like an idiot over here.
That's funny because that's what this podcast is, though. Like any time that we have tried too hard to prepare,
yes,
it's like we instantly are like, you know what? F this. This is too like because we're not quite ourselves anymore. So
no,
that's when even just 5 minutes before starting the recording on this, we both agreed like, yeah, let's just like, I have this basic idea of what I think would be good, and I'll just ask you some questions and we'll just talk. Because that's the only way we operate.
If I have to prepare, then I feel like I'm doing a presentation and I'm not authentically myself the same way. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel genuine.
So I think it was a perfect Deadlifts and Pizza style anniversary.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome. If you also thought that it was amazing, if you could leave a 5-star review and tell us in a comment how great it was, wish us a happy anniversary. I'm excited going into year 2. It's going to be so because most of these 1 year, most of this entire 1 year I was in Korea, and for me that's a big deal. So this next coming year is going to be back stateside, and you're going to be in the morning. So it's going to be so great. Yes. We're going to get year 2 is going to be amazing.
My brain won't blank out like that. I'm going to get smart again. Like literally, my brain went blank as I was talking. I'm like, I hate this.
I feel like that happens during the day too.
Not as often.
Love ya.
Bye.
All right. Yeah. Comment, like, all that stuff. And we'll see you next week.